Good morning, everybody. This is your Citrix wake-up call here at the ATEA Autumn Forum here in Tallinn. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Fabian Kienle. I'm the regional sales manager for the Baltic countries for Citrix. And what I would like to do within the next 45 minutes is not just give you an update how we do things and the fact that we have things while others talk. I would also make you familiar why you should use those things. I think the why is even more important than the how. Actually, this is a logical consequence, but the cause is the why. Why do people things? And if I just look at the title of my presentation, a very modern thing, right? It's called Citrix lets desktops, apps, and data following you wherever you go. Most of you think, sounds interesting, but actually, why should people do something like that? Or on the other side, what is the reason why you do things like that? We at Citrix believe that there's only one reason why we have a cloud, and that's also a very modern word, right? This is something which is super old. Actually, IBM once started this whole thing with mainframes, right? Let's say the birthplace of clouds, or that what we call clouds today. Because what mainframes have in common with that what we call cloud today is actually the fact that we talk about the most cost-efficient way to run an IT environment. And that's not client-server environments. You know, these little things, how Microsoft got rich? Right, not these ones. We are talking about centralized environments, making sure that applications, data, desktops, any kind of resources are centrally stored in a data center, and that over any kind of connection, over any kind of network, to any kind of client, we are delivering all of the resources that your users need. And at the end of the day, there's only one reason why IT exists, and that reason are applications. You buy servers, you secure networks, you optimize networks only for one reason, to make sure that application can be delivered to any kind of device at any time. And this paradigm change, the centralization of resources, even without talking about products and features, already comes up with unparalleled features and unparalleled advantages. The fact simply by moving and taking operating systems away from the client device and by putting them into the data center, you simply abolish these classical release cycle things that are now happening with Windows XP towards Windows 7, right? The only reason why you exchange client hardware and do these things is because someone said, yeah, it's end of life of our operating system. So you are forced to do something. And the fact that hardware, operating system, and apps are tightly coupled, that is the reason why you need to exchange anything on the client side, even if it's just the release change of an operating system. So what we are trying to do with our technologies here at Citrix is to make sure that we get rid of these dependencies. And by the fact that applications are centrally hosted, we are making sure that the client no longer is something that holds an operating system, needs CPU power. The client is simply becoming one of many clients. It's just a stupid piece of metal that just needs to hold a Citrix client in order to display content, to display the user interface of applications and desktops from wherever they are coming. And that actually is the benefit for you, that you, for the first time, get independent from these life cycle of devices. You simply make sure that you can extend the life cycle of your existing devices into infinity, actually until they physically break. There's no longer a release cycle of an OS vendor that tells you what to do and that tells you what to exchange, when, and how. This is actually the freedom that centralization, a cloud delivers, that the dependencies are actually removed, and actually that things like administration and support, all these things that are so incredibly expensive in a client-server environment, are simply abolished and optimized into the data center, making sure that you do all of these things way quicker, way faster, and that migrations, application testing, and all these things are no longer a matter of weeks, months, or even years, matter of lots of money and budget. It's actually something that we are abolishing. And that's not everything. Actually, and this is the cool thing, we are enabling something that maybe some of you are already experiencing, and maybe some of you who say, oh, wow, didn't know that this is possible, and that Citrix is enabling something like that. What we call in modern words mobile work styles is nothing else to enable you to actually define where the office is. The office is where you are and not the other way around. And that actually means that by supporting any kind of device, it simply means that you can access anything that you want to access from anywhere, and simply making sure that any kind of application that you're hosting, regardless if it's Windows app, .NET services, web applications, Java apps, anything can be delivered without a compromise to any kind of client. So the mobile work styles are more than just applications. It's a mix. It's a mix of being able to move. It's a mix of being able to communicate and collaborate with others. It's a mix of retrieving applications and desktops. And one thing, which is even as important as apps, data. You want to be able not just to open an app and to work with it. You want to be able, regardless if you're sitting on a Linux or Windows-based notebook, on a MacBook, or on an iPad, or a Samsung Galaxy Tab, or anything else, you want to be able to retrieve your apps and your data. And this is exactly what Citrix enables for any kind of device, that you take your office where you are, and you don't longer have to be where actually your office is. You make the rules here. This is the kind of work style Citrix is enabling. And if we summarize all these pillars, before we get into live demos and things like that, the most important thing besides app is collaboration. And people collaboration to work, especially when you have people in different countries, in different locations, being able to communicate with each other, Citrix is offering a technology called GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting actually is more than just a meeting tool. It includes voice over IP technology, so it enables you even to be completely independent from cell phones, dial-in connections, cheap fares for roaming devices or things like that. So it's completely focused on available internet connections. So it enables you not just only to work on documents from whatever kind of device, like here with a Windows 7 client. It even enables you in HD quality video conferencing. And that actually means it simply doesn't matter where you are or from which device, because that's what we enable in terms of collaboration is also something you can do when you're maybe sitting at the airport and say, oh, damn, I know that there is a conference. I need to participate. I'm actually on the run. I have no time to open up my notebook. You can simply do that from any other device. So in this case, complete independence, regardless which device you hold and regardless from where you want to attend such a conference. This is also part of our cloud story because it's enabling a service. This is not a product, it's a SaaS service from Citrix that enables you to collaborate from wherever you are. So far, so good. That's the part of collaboration, part of our DNA. Because since Citrix exists, and this is for more than 22 years, we are enabling centralized environments. That's all we do. Meanwhile, in a broad way. So, but that's not everything. The key thing, which is really something everybody likes and wants to have, is data. And Citrix has a technology in place, and unlike others, it's already available. This technology is called Citrix ShareFile. I'm quite sure that most of you have no clue what ShareFile is, but if I would ask you, is anyone in here who knows what Dropbox is, for instance, I'm quite sure that most of you are already using that, including me. It was one of the first services of its kind, and I was using it too. Now Citrix has something like that as well. And some might think, oh, come on, another kind of service like others are doing that as well. Why do I need Citrix ShareFile? Well, very easy, because it's better, right? And where is this better? Well, actually, and this is the interesting thing, the way how Dropbox or ShareFile work, it's a centralized, it's a kind of cloud storage. Everything you have is on your device. You sync it with your storage in the cloud, and you make sure that you can get all these data from anywhere. The difference between Citrix and these, for instance, Dropbox example is that the fact is that all uploads and downloads are fully encrypted. That's one thing. But the most important thing, and you will realize right now why Citrix has it just as an additional technology for its VDI internal service product, is our share file has an Active Directory integration. And that makes and means that all your network drives, home drives, so everything that you have policy-based in your environment can be fully synchronized with our kind of file service. So that means it's more than just a product where you store something outside your premises. It is actually a technology that is fully included in your world. Wow, some people say, cool, okay, but we have an internal policy, Mr. Kienle. And that policy means we don't want a single piece of data of our company, lots of sensitive information. We don't want this to leave our premises. Would you agree with me that this is maybe to some a potential threat where you say, hey, I have no clue where my company data are stored if I'm using such a solution? That's why Citrix is offering share files in two ways. The one which you know, the casual one, this cloud-based thing, and the other one is an on-premise solution where actually the centralized store is on your premises, on your file services. So actually you can provide such a service which makes pure sense to let data follow your users, something that you can hold on your own environment, so to make sure that data never physically leaves your environment. But that's still not everything. We have way more to offer. We have an Outlook integration, which is quite cool and is actually something I would like to show you. So I'm having my Outlook in place, right? And maybe you know that you try to send something to somebody, and let's say it's a 50 megabyte file, and you definitely know that your Exchange server is not allowing these kind of attachments at that size. Right? So in a Citrix environment, or let's say if you're using ShareFile, you would simply open your Outlook. I'm sending this mail to a guy called Fabian Kienle, of course. And I say, look, these are the slides, so thanks for sharing that. And now I want to attach it, and instead of attaching it the usual way and making it a problem to the Exchange server, I'm simply using the integration of ShareFile into Outlook. I'm attaching this file here, which is kind of small one. However, we don't want to give the network here a hard time. So I'm actually attaching it, and look now what's happening. When I access this file, it doesn't attach it. It comes up with a hyperlink, right? And this hyperlink says, we are not attaching the file. It's just something that the recipient can click and download from. So when I send this file here right now, look what's happening up here on the right. You can see it's uploading the file. So the email goes into the outbox, the file is uploaded, and now the mail is sent. Okay? So that's it. If I open my Mozilla right now here, Firefox, and now I'm this recipient who is waiting desperately for these masses of files, right? So I'm connecting here, I'm logging in and say, oh cool, the guy from Citrix thought about me and he has sent me this, right? So I have one new email in my inbox. And here actually is my file. And when I open this one here, then I say, hey cool, wow, this is the hyperlink. And when I click now here, I'll be diverted, of course, to the share file side. And what's happening here right now is say, hey, wait a minute. We don't let somebody download anything. What's happening if the recipient takes this kind of hyperlink and sends it to somebody else? Maybe you don't want that. So actually, when I send something to somebody, I want this person to at least tell me that it's, damn it. So you can even add this up with way more information. So I'm continuing to the download page, and actually here it would be. The cool thing about this solution is you don't have to use the Citrix logo there. This solution is fully customizable. You can put in your own logos, your own graphics. So this is actually something you can use as an internal service. Nobody needs to know that this is actually a Citrix solution, right? So that's actually one thing how to do it. However, is there another scenario, another solution? Oh, absolutely. You know what? Sometimes I'm calling colleagues and saying, hey, damn it, I told you so many times to send me the PowerPoints, right? And then somebody says, well, Fabian, but I have the same problem like you, right? It's a 50 megabyte slide deck, and I have the same problem. I cannot send it. And unfortunately, we don't have Citrix share file. I said, oh, wow, OK, no problem. There's another opportunity how I can help you. So again, I write this guy an email. Send me the bloody files. And instead of attaching something, I simply go to the button, the integration, request a file. When I go and do something like that, I'm going to send the same person this file. And the cool thing is, he gets the same kind of thing. He gets the mail. And by pushing this hyperlink, he has an opportunity to upload it into my environment. We have a security implemented, so any antivirus vendor can put its agent in there, so I can fully secure things like that. So actually a quite good solution that Citrix, or where Citrix is showing you that you can handle files regardless from which device and regardless where you're traveling. While others talk about it, we have it. This product is available at Citrix, and I'll be happy to show you even more about this solution during the day, if you like. So, Citrix ShareFile is more than just a Dropbox. As I already said, it's a fully integrated solution into your environment. You have the choice if it's cloud-based or on-premise based in your own environment. But it's not like that. We see ShareFile more like a virtual Windows Explorer, where you can manage files. And this is something, of course, which you don't have to do when you have a Windows client. This is something, of course, where it's easy because you have a Windows Explorer. But what's happening if you have devices like an iPad, where you, of course, have published applications and things, but maybe you also want to use your data, right? And I'm quite sure you access your files like I do it. In the morning, I never open an app, and then I open the file through the app. How do we work? We have the Windows Explorer. We look for the file. We double-click it. And actually, with the file type association capability, the app starts with the desired file. This is something Citrix enables also for cloud-based scenarios. And again, everything you see here is just your applications. And instead of opening an app, regardless where it's coming from, you are seeing with the Citrix ShareFile integration all of your files. That could be your file shares, any other network drives. And by simply double-clicking, you can fire up the file with the application. And another thing is super cool. Because when you think cloud, you also have to think about security. It's super flexible to be able to access and open anything from anywhere. But maybe in some scenarios, it's something which is a sacrifice to security. Maybe you don't want anybody to open anything from anywhere. That's why Citrix has full control in the ShareFile client and making sure that you can control with the Citrix Access technologies, our NetScaler and Access Gateway products, to control who is allowed to copy, delete, and print files. Maybe I'm only allowing this while the user is in the office or in his home office. I'm not allowing that when he's in an internet cafe or accessing from an untrusted device. This is exactly the power that Citrix is giving to companies, that you have full access or no access or something in between, but you make the rules and no one else. That's actually what we enable and call follow me data, like all our apps and desktops are following us as well. All right, applications is a good thing. Any of one of you thinking about a Windows 7 migration or something like that? Come on, don't be shy. I'm not trying to sell you something right now. Any one of you already did a Windows 7 migration? Okay. Was a lot of work? Of course it is. It's always a work when you have to deal with Microsoft stuff, right? What is the biggest issue with migrations? It's not the migration itself. The real issue with it is the bloody application testing, right? Who of you is having more than 20 applications? More than 50? Some banks even, which I visited in the past 15 years, have even sometimes more than 300. So if I were you, I wouldn't raise my finger too. However, the problem is application testing. As I said already in the beginning, the issue with client-server infrastructures as we had it in the past, and this is really the worst thing, right, is actually when you exchange an operating system, you also have to test the apps to make sure that the same apps are working on the same or on the new platform. And if you have more apps, it takes more time, it takes more money, and you go through that whenever Microsoft changes its releases. You have no choice to escape. There's always something you need to touch, to change, to modify, to update before you can actually migrate. Citrix has a solution for this. And this is actually something that makes you completely independent from anything that you had so far. Not only for the moment, but also for any possible migration scenarios that you might have in future. We have a technology called Citrix App DNA. And what actually is that? It's not just only for scenarios where you are thinking about to migrate to Windows 7, and maybe in 2 years you say, hey, damn, maybe we should go to Windows 8. Maybe you're just in a situation to migrate a terminal server version from Microsoft, right? Or you simply say, hey, I don't want to migrate to Windows 7, I just want to migrate to a 64-bit version of a client operating system. So actually, whenever you change any kind of operating system, it affects your apps. And it does it always, always. And that is costing your money, and even worse, your time. So what is Citrix offering here with AppDNA? Let's have a look first at the manual approach. I've been a systems engineer and an admin myself in my first life before I joined Citrix, right? And if you want to test applications, you take one app, you install it in your lab environment, you test the application, and after testing it, performance-wise and capability-wise, after spending lots of time only for one application, you finally come out and say, hey, cool, it's working. And then I say, cool, continue with the other 30 apps now. So the problem always is, with the classical manual testing, it has to be physically done. You have to install the app in a target scenario in order to test it, and then to come up, even after modifications, that it runs in the new environment. With the manual testing, you always test only one scenario at the same time. So after manual testing, investing time and money, you maybe come back with a resolution that it's working with Windows 7. But what about all the other scenarios? What about if you say, maybe I want to use the terminal services as well, or I already want to use and test something else? The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that for each scenario, for each application, you have to make the separate testing in order to find out if it runs only in one scenario or many target scenario. And this is a nightmare, a huge multiplier where you spend time and money. So what is Citrix AppDNA doing? And this is actually very, very cool. The testing process itself, it's almost cut down to zero. And why is that? Because when AppDNA is evaluating your applications, you don't need to install the app in a target device or in a target scenario. Isn't that cool? The only thing that AppDNA wants from you is an executable, an MSI file, any base data of the application. So you heard right, it's nothing you need to install. All we need is the source code of the app. You need to point AppDNA to the app. And what's happening then is we are testing that, and we are testing all of these things at once. And the great results, beside the fact that you don't need to establish a lab environment, is the fact that Citrix comes with a test result for any possible scenario of your application. How does that look like? concretely here. So we come back to you with an application matrix, right? So we have the application name, the vendor, the version you are using, and we come back to you with a scenario where the application has not only been tested for Windows desktop OSs like Windows 7, we all tested for any possible target scenario that you might have. Maybe you're not migrating to Windows 7 for everybody. Maybe there are some exceptions to the rule where others are using other operating systems. We're also testing if these applications are running on any possible version of terminal services. We're also testing this application if it can be virtualized with Citrix application virtualization or if it can be virtualized with Microsoft AppV. So what we do here, ladies and gentlemen, is we accelerate the process of testing by simply avoiding lab environments, and actually we come across with each app with a result on any possible target scenario. And as you can see here, we come back with a traffic light mode, right? Green means you can go ahead, no modifications, it can be done. The amber one says an intelligent remediation most likely is necessary, things need to be changed. And even here, Citrix doesn't leave you alone. Citrix comes back with a solution, with a predefined solution. The AppDNA product is able to provide scripts, customized scripts, in order to make sure that applications that are not running out of the box in one of these scenarios can simply be made to run there without having a developer in place. The red, of course, is something which definitely requires a developer. It's maybe custom-built apps that were never made for these kind of scenarios. However, what it does, and this is, in my eyes, the super value behind that, even if in such cases here, it comes back with a scenario where the application definitely never runs without having a developer at hand, it provides you an offer to say, okay, if I don't want to spend the money for a developer to make it maybe happen and work in such scenario, maybe I put it on a terminal server, or maybe I virtualize the app or do something else with it. So however, you have choice what you do with that application. You can still do something like that, or you simply put it in an environment where it works out of the box. So actually, AppDNA is a huge thing, and in order to avoid spending money for something which you cannot calculate, Citrix simply has an effort calculator which tests the application, which comes back with a scenario, what has to be done, what has to be changed, and actually tells you what the final costs are of something like that, and you can easily compare that with manual testing. And believe me, there is no scenario where manual testing is more expensive than something like that. Some customers always tell me, yeah, but you know, the labor here maybe is way, way cheaper than anywhere else. And I say, true, maybe that's the case. But there's one currency, ladies and gentlemen, which has the same value anywhere in the world, and that's time. And if I'm talking about 20 or 30 applications, and I need to test them again and again, then it's costing time. And this is something that we abolish. We make sure that we give you choice, and that we save time, and that you do these things once, and not whenever you migrate to a new operating system. So far, so good. So this is another thing that Citrix provides. No other vendor has these kind of technologies at hand. We see that as a logical consequence for that what we're doing in terms of integrated and centralized solutions. So having things like that in place is super, but the most important thing is devices. We are living in the world of consumerization of our IT. 2010 was the first year where more mobile devices have been sold than desktops. And I think even notebooks will soon be sold less than any other smart devices. Vendors like Samsung or Apple are accelerating that process. People want to be mobile. People want to be no longer in the office. The office should be where the people are. This is the change of the behavior. This is driving models like home office, being able to stay and work from home and not being where the office desk and my wired connection is. The accelerator for something like that is Citrix, like no other vendor. And why is that? Because Citrix gives you the peace of mind that we support any kind of device with any kind of operating system, regardless how exotic it might be, and making sure that not Microsoft or others telling you which device with which operating system you should use, not even Apple telling you that you can only browse through the web with their Safari browser without Flash. You make the rules with Citrix. Because what we do here, I'm going to show that live in a moment too, is actually that we make sure that our Citrix receiver component is available to full extent for any possible device. That means you make the choice. If you say, hey, I like Apple iPads, but they are so goddamn expensive, maybe I want to have a Blackbook or Playbook from RIM or anything else, then go ahead. Any Android-based, any iOS-based device, Symbian, anything, Citrix provides a client for that. That means we can deliver your Windows desktops, your Windows apps, your web applications to any possible device. There's no longer a reason to say, well, I'm not sure if this is supported by anyone. Yes, we do. We make sure that it's possible. And the Citrix receiver is not just a client, it's a client framework. And that's actually the cool thing. Citrix offers so many services and technologies. Just imagine you have to install 10 different clients on each physical device. You would go nuts, right? Saying, wow, Citrix wants me to install 10 clients on my device. The intelligent thing is the Citrix receiver. It requires one simple installation, and that's the framework. And the client component that actually interacts with the centralized backend component is something that we call plugins. So every Citrix receiver is not just a terminal server client or a VDI client. It is automatically an SSL VPN client. It is automatically also a client for WAN optimization, something you desperately try to search for at Riverbed or others, because it's a fully integrated solution. Anything we do, we deliver as a complete set to any kind of client. We even have clients for Microsoft AppV, which enables you here also to have the choice. We are not telling you to do app virtualization with Citrix. If you already have a strategy in place with Microsoft, go ahead. We can even make sure that AppV packages from Microsoft can be delivered to any kind of Citrix receiver, and we are making sure that this is actually a real comprehensive and complete solution. There are no more compromises. This is available with any device here. And of course, we want to make sure that there's a unified look and feel, right? So this is how it looks when you work maybe from a physical Mac device, from a MacBook Pro back at home. Same thing as it looks when you have your Windows or Linux-based notebook with you, or even if you have a thin client maybe from Wise here, or let's say an iPad or anything else, the receiver always gives you the feeling that your personal preferences are going with you, right? Regardless if you switch the device. And this is not only everything. We integrate everything into your existing devices. Maybe you have mission-critical SaaS applications. I have a Salesforce app for my iPad, actually, right? Not a good thing. The feature really sucks, to be honest. It's very limited compared to that, what Salesforce can actually offer. But if I want to do more, guess what I do? Exactly. I just use it through my browser, which has been published on my XenApp server, or which is part of my virtual desktop. So actually, I can make sure that Windows apps, SaaS services, corporate data is all following my device. And let me show you how that works. No, I don't want to update my browser. So how does it look like here? So I'm wired here to the network, and let's go to my Citrix device. So as you can see here, I'm just logging on. Citrix supports any kind of third-party or strong authentication. If it's any kind of smart card or anything like that, it's no problem. So I'm logging on, And now something happens that you actually don't see. This is more than just an SSL VPN. If we talk about a cloud environment, ladies and gentlemen, as I already said, it's cool, it's flexible, because people can access and work from anywhere. Now what you see here is something others are just trying to start. We already have it for years, and that's your personalized set of applications and virtual desktops. And the thing actually here, what you see is it's an endpoint analysis. This is the Citrix corporate environment, and Citrix wants to know where I am before I can access anything. And that means Citrix makes a difference if I'm sitting in the internal network of Citrix, where I can do anything what I want according to the rights that I have in my Active Directory. But Citrix doesn't like that if I'm maybe outside the environment, and maybe, in this case, it's a corporate device, maybe it's a untrusted device, because it's my private device and not something that Citrix is providing. So actually, we do an endpoint analysis, and that means we are checking the client. The Citrix SSL VPN is analyzing the client device and saying, okay, maybe these mission-critical applications, maybe file shares where very sensitive information are, we're not giving you, and even if I give it to you, I only allow you to view documents. I'm not allowing you to print, to copy, or to move them somewhere. So that's actually something Citrix products, our Citrix Access Gateway and NetScaler, can actually differentiate depending on from where the user connects. So this is that's actually all I need, right? This is my, let's say, my start menu, my virtual start menu, which is my virtual start menu, even if it's not a Windows 7 client, but maybe my MacBook or something like that. And just imagine right now it says, oh yeah, I want to use my browser here right now because I want to use a published app, right? Then I see my apps here. I see my SAP SaaS app, our internal one, my Microsoft Outlook. I even have my Windows desktop, and I have my internal connection. Citrix is the only vendor for VDI and terminal services solution that fully integrates voice over IP support. That means regardless if you're using Cisco, Avaya, Lucent, or Nortel soft phone or IP phone solutions, these ones, which I just counted, are supported and tested. And this is something actually where wherever you travel, you can take your internal extension with you. People can reach you not even knowing that you're not in your office, but maybe your home office or somewhere at the airport. Video conferencing, even webcams are supported. And the good thing is, the feature set is the same regardless if you do VDI with Citrix, terminal services with Citrix, or even if you do it with virtualized apps. There's no compromise in the feature set regardless which way you choose. The choice is always up to you, never to Citrix in this case. So let's assume you say, oh yeah, damn, my boss told me to do something with Microsoft Visio, right? And I completely forgot to do that, right? And now I have the time while I wait for my plane, but I need Visio. So what we're gonna do here now is I simply access and go to all these application categories that Citrix has internally available for its users, right? So I have my data sharing, I have everything here, and I know I go to my office productivity part, which is actually showing me all the Microsoft apps that have been made available to me. That could be a mix of terminal server apps. It could be even a virtualized app. To be honest, I'm a user. I don't care what it is. I just want to have the bloody app, right? I don't care where it's hosted. And this is exactly what we do here. I'm just offering it to my users. And what I do here right now is I'm scrolling down and I'm seeing here, oh, my Microsoft Visio. And all I need to do is simply pushing this. And what's happening here right now is this application has now been added to my virtual profile. And if I do that within the next 10 minutes from my Symbian-based device, from my Nokia phone or from my WebOS-based phone or anything else, I will get the same profile, means the application which I have selected here, right? So this kind of self-provisioning is perfect and is another result from centralization. From that, what Citrix is actually doing for you, it is actually accelerating the whole process. When I was an IT admin almost 17 years ago, In a client-server environment, we call that sneaker administration, because whenever somebody said, hey, Fabian, I need a new application, you either did it with electronic software distribution or you just took a bloody CD and installed it locally, right? Oh. So this costs time and money. This here is cooler. Why is that? Because the user simply takes what he wants, of course, according to the policies that have been applied. Self-service provisioning is something where I can say, yeah, now I work with Visio, and if I don't need it anymore, then I simply get back here and simply remove it, and it's taken off my portfolio here, right? So actually something, one thing less, where an admin has to do something anywhere. I will continue this live demo later on in my second session, but as I have 5 minutes left here, I need to accelerate that a moment here. So again, I already mentioned that WAN optimization is one thing, but also the complete integration beyond apps and desktops, and that's collaboration, webcams for video conferencing, and also voice over IP integration in your virtual desktop or into your terminal server farm. As already mentioned, the Citrix Access Gateway is not just an add-on product where you buy more and more and more. If you want to do that, you have to go to our competition. They like to sell third-party products, right? They like to enable something like that. At Citrix, it's all available with one single license. The Access Gateway, our SSL VPN with these capabilities are included in our XenDesktop product, which also includes all the other technologies. So it's never to make up your mind, oh, which technology do I need today or maybe tomorrow? It's one license for the complete set of technologies, and you actually decide how you want to roll it out, and if you maybe change your business model in a year or two later. It doesn't matter if you use the technologies all at once or separately. There's never a reason to buy more licenses unless you have more users. Another thing where our competition is envying us is the fact of WAN optimization. You can control bandwidth and you can control performance in your local area network, but in the internet you can't. Bandwidth may be, but latency is the biggest killer for TCP-based traffic, and the entire world is doing that. Citrix is having an appliance-based solution, either virtual appliances included in the product, or physical, where you can actually make sure that any kind of TCP-based traffic, and that's not only copy jobs or larger files. I'm also talking about print jobs that are centrally initiated, but the printer is maybe in a branch office or somewhere else. Print jobs are a huge issue if you have to move them over a WAN or LAN. So in this case, the branch repeater is also a kind of solution that makes sure that everything, regardless what type of data it is, gets accelerated. And of course, with another plugin in the Citrix receiver, it's not just a site-to-site solution between data center and branch office. It's also something that you can do from mobile devices. I can even accelerate things from this device, from an Android-based device, from anything. And this is why Citrix thinks further than anybody else in this business, because we have all this in a single license available. So, regardless what you do, I'm personally a fan of centralized environments. Regardless what your business goal is, regardless what your strategy is, with a centralized solution, it's the best way to do that cost efficient, quickly, and unparalleled. It gives you all the flexibility we never had since NT Workstation, most likely. And all these client operating systems where you had to always do something that was kind of expensive and where you had no choice because others made the choice for you. In a Citrix environment, you make the choice when you migrate, how you migrate. Maybe there are alternatives. And that's why I strongly recommend you to visit my next session. There you will see how much money you can even save, not only with Citrix, but also in terms of Microsoft licensing, where you can avoid Microsoft licensing and actually deliver applications in a way, smarter way. Your fastest way to Citrix here, of course, it's me, right? So if you're interested in a personal demo at the Citrix booth, feel free to approach me. I'm there for the entire day. I don't drink any alcohol unless I'm told to do so. So before the party starts, I'm definitely able to give you a full explanation to all the questions that you hopefully have. Otherwise, if you say, no, I don't want to do that here, drop me an email, follow me on LinkedIn, or simply follow me on Twitter. I'll be happy to actually be in contact with you. Thank you very much for being in my session, and hopefully I'm seeing you in the second one, which is at least as thrilling as this one. Thank you very much.